Hey, what's up? It's Whiskey Wednesday. Ooh, I forgot I was drinking cast strength. I took a little too big of a sip there. Hi, everybody. It's Dave tuning in. Happy hour edition of Whiskey Wednesday. Here we are, 2 weeks in a row. We're on fire here, folks. So many things to do, so many things to announce, so many things to show. And it's time to dive into another Whiskey Wednesday. This time, we got a couple special things. We've got a special guest. Kevin Ngo is here. He's going to be joining us in just a second to talk about all things logistics. And then I've got a couple goodies behind me as well to share with you, some new updates from Luthier. Hey, Silverfear, how you doing? Nice to tune in. Remember, you can tune in from Facebook or YouTube. So hope to see you there. Feel free to comment. Let us know what you're drinking tonight or today or this morning, whenever it might be. And it's so great to see comments. Beatrice, thank you. Oh, first time. Awesome. Thanks for coming. Let us know what you're drinking in the chat. Are you having some milk, some tea, some water, some whiskey, whatever it might be? It's welcome at the table, at the Paverson table. Today I am having an Auchentoshan. Single malt. The cool thing about this one is it's a distillery cast strength, so it's pretty high volume. Let's see, what is this? 59.7. So again, remember 59.7, we double that for us in the States with our proof. So that's about 118, 119, 119 proof, baby. That's the high test stuff right there. So we got some good stuff today. Hey, coffee is wonderful too. Decaf. Well, it's that time of day. Cinnamon coffee cream. Ooh, little taste, little spice there. Awesome, Beatrice. Thanks for tuning in. So yeah, let us know what you're drinking tonight. Thanks for joining us. Let's dive in. Let's get started. I'm excited to invite our guest out tonight. If you tuned in last week, you know that we invited two different people that are brand new to the Paverson Games team. Libby and Isaiah. We had a great conversation with them. And then we also learned a little bit more about cocktails as well, which is what we've been playtesting over in our Discord. Well, today it's the third member of the team that has officially joined us, and that's Kevin. Kevin Ngo, he's from Canada, and he's going to be helping in with our logistics and operations. And the question is, what does that mean? What does logistics and operations mean? Well, let's bring Kevin out. Round of applause, everybody online. And let's welcome Kevin to the stage. Hey, welcome. How you doing, Kevin?
I'm doing pretty good. Thanks for having me, Dave.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. And what are you drinking tonight, Kevin?
I'm drinking, looks like the same thing that Silverfear is. I just got some water here. It's 4 o'clock, so it's still pretty, it's a little bit early for anything else. Maybe later today.
I get it. Yeah. Totally. And it's funny because, of course, normally I do these things later at night, and we thought we'd try this out, a little bit of a happy hour type of thing. So that's kind of fun. And we even see Box Meeples is on. I don't know if that's Julian or Libby. It might be Libby. Who knows? Tuning in as well. So really fun stuff to have some people tuning in and let us know what you're having, how you're doing. And I'll post some questions for Kevin as well. If you have a question for him, be sure to post it in the chat, and I'll be able to kind of pass it over to him. But let's get back to this. So logistics and operations is what we have you kind of joining us for. But of course, some people that are big fans of our Whiskey Wednesday might remember this face because Kevin actually has been on before. So Kevin, maybe talk a little bit about yourself, personal, professional background, maybe also how you know Paverson to begin with as well.
Well, my first interactions with Paverson is just through Distilled. As a big fan of the hobby, I'm a big fan of Distilled. And the years are kind of blurring together a little bit, but I feel like I was I got in Distilled and I had kind of got it to the table a bunch and was enjoying it for a while before you announced Luthier. And at some point, I remember watching, I think it must have been in one of the early play tests, really, really early. And you were talking through a bunch of the stuff that was happening in the game. And you were asking a whole bunch of questions that were, in a sense, on the stream. They were rhetorical. The thing is, I I have a background in music and classical music. Um, I have graduate degrees in piano performance, and I have a PhD in musicology. So I actually and like my degree and my concentration, my focus is kind of centered right around the time and the place that Luthier is set. So it was like this perfect merging of two passions of mine, the music end of things and the board games. And you know, I realized that I had some of the answers to the rhetorical questions that you're asking. So I think I sent you an email. And I think I had like, yeah, I think I sent you an email with a whole bunch of the answers that you had asked live on live on stream. Um, and then you know, we had conversations, and then I came on board to help kind of fine tune some of the music the music end of things with Luthier. And I guess from there, I work in logistics for in board games as well. And I think I told you that I might be able to help you, knowing that Paverson, you know, Dave talks about Paverson being him in his basement, and I have an appreciation for how much goes into running to running a publishing company, and that logistic side of things is something that I can help shoulder and allow you to spend your energy on other parts of that business. And I think that's eventually where we led to, for me to be here, for me to be pitching in, and for me to be part of the team.
That's awesome. Well, that's awesome. Yeah, you're right. It is. It's funny how some of those things organically happen, and that's happened multiple times with me. Blake. So Blake Tucker from he's a big mixologist and cocktail connoisseur. That I met him as well online. He started giving me feedback on that. That was a great connection. So many of these happen where it's fans or people that are part of the community that connect in one way, and in cases like yours, then bring it on to well, guess what, Dave? I also have this experience and expertise in an area that I'm guessing you don't, which is right. It probably takes me about 10 times as long to get through some of the things that you can do fairly quickly. So that's pretty neat. Also I see, I'm sorry to say, it's probably happened while you've been asked questions. So Phil Silverfear says it's your turn on BJ, but then also Box Maples, Julian comes in and says the same thing. So you've got a lot of people on BGA that you play with, it sounds like, too, as part of the Paverson community, which is kind of fun. Oh man, that's funny. Cool. So okay, so yeah, the way I remember it, beyond just starting to connect about Luthier, I remember you mentioning, well, in passing, kind of probably a Discord chat or something, that you've got some experience in logistics. So you started helping me with, I think, did it start with mainly with Backer Kit? Was that it? Like starting to navigate that background before it got more into worrying about logistics, which is something that's kind of coming in the future. Was that right?
Yeah, I think so. I think even a little bit before that, because one of the first things, as part of like any crowdfunding campaign, a big part of that is delivering those packages.
Yeah,
so
shipping.
I think it probably started with the
Yeah.
shipping estimates and the structure for. I mean, we can't run a crowdfunding campaign without having some sort of framework towards what backers can be expecting to pay for shipping. And I think we probably started there, but that's just the first part of the process.
Yeah.
As I see it for logistics, like that's the first step.
It is, yeah, and you're right. You're totally right. It was trying to estimate shipping. We really try, for those that are fans of Paverson or have backed our games, we try and be as transparent as possible with what the cost might be. So I take maybe a little bit more time, or a little bit more seriously, that estimation of shipping costs up front, so that we can kind of be clear about that when we're telling our backers. And yeah, you really helped with that, bringing your experience to the table with that. So maybe let's talk a little bit about that, like logistics operations. Officially your title is logistics and operations. can you tell people a little bit about like what the heck does that mean? I mean, I know, but I want you to tell people
Sure, yeah.
what that means.
So on the logistics side of things, like the way I see it, my job, my role is to take once we have the physical products.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, of course, we manufacture in China. Like I think most publishers, 90%, 99% of them publish or manufacture in China. So then, we have to get them to our backers first, all over the world. And I think we can probably pull up one of the spreadsheets that we're working with, and if you can pop this up on the screen here.
Yeah, so I'm sharing the screen so people
a whole bunch of numbers here.
Yeah, and what Kevin's sharing here is his screen, and I might pop into just us seeing the screen so you can see that a little bit more. But go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, so what we have here is like each alternation of colors. So we have like the purple, and then we have blue, and we have purple, and then blue. Each alternation is a different hub that we're using. So for fulfilling Luthier, and like distilled is a little bit of part of that too, because we have distilled products available on the Pledge Manager for Luthier. We are going to be shipping all pledges from one of six hubs. And for each of these 6 hubs, like there's certain order quantities that we're taking into account. Of course, the backers who take that information out of backer kit. Sometimes there's going to be distribution purchase orders. And Paverson also has a pretty strong like web presence in terms of web orders as well as conventions. So we're trying to have inventory in the right places so that Paverson has stock when you're at a convention, and we're trying to put all those numbers together to figure out how much of everything that we need in any specific zone. So like we're looking at Spiral STGs, just our UK Spiral Galaxy, and we have our backer kit numbers. We have distribution quantities. This is what Spiral Galaxy wants to have on hand for their retailer orders. This is just distribution where most FLGSs will get their stock. And Paverson has a presence at UK Games Expo every year, and that's what this is for. So these end up being the numbers of each. So each row is a different product, and these are the final numbers that we're sending to our factory, so that they know what to send and where to send it. And when you take into account localization, we have a lot of different languages for Luthier, and this is what we're doing behind the scenes to make sure that everybody has what they want, or we have the right quantities in the right places. This is our way of trying to minimize the cost of shipping as much as possible. It means that your games or the pledges are going to go the furthest distance in an ocean container, in a big box, or like on a pallet, and it's gonna be couriered the shortest distance, and that's where we can kind of cut down on or minimize as much as we can the costs that our backers pay in terms of their shipping.
And Kevin, can you zoom in on that? Like make that like 150% just for a little bit, up at the top.
Where do we?
Right there, yeah. And then so people can see, and scroll kind of up to the top for distilled first, so people can see. So we're printing both distilled and Luthier roughly at the same time, different factories. So one is at What's Games, that's distilled, and Luthier's at Panda. But so it's 2 different factories that we have to coordinate freight that we'll talk about in a bit. But right now you can see the printing. So you've got the factory order. Then as you look over, FRG is US, so that's Flat River Group. It's going to be shipped there and fulfilled from there. But each of those different colors is a different country and a different fulfillment house. Yep. And so it's a really kind of tricky situation that I was trying to juggle with a spreadsheet, but it was, we don't need to pull it up. It'd be embarrassing, but it was just kind of like me like punching in numbers. Richard knows too. I'm terrible at spreadsheets, but people like you and Richard have a really good understanding of like scripts and things that we'll do. And I know this one's a more simple one, but that really make things a lot easier. So that just today, you and I were meeting and talking about numbers, and this helped us quickly find an issue that we were trying to solve, which is really nice, Oh, here's a question that Beatrice says. Sorry to be the bummer for this, but how will tariffs affect the shipping? Beatrice, stay tuned. I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a little bit once we get to that kind of shipping step. So what happens after this, Kevin, as far as once we've got the numbers, once it's manufactured, like what's the next step that might happen?
So while we're preparing our numbers and spinning our numbers to the factory, usually the factory has at this point everything is made, and like all the components are made, and they're probably going into the process of assembly. Putting like it's fascinating to see where you have like all the cards are kind of printed on one sheet of paper, and you have these massive stacks of paper that are then cut down and then shrink wrapped or whatever. So when we're preparing these final numbers, that's around the time that the factory is kind of doing their final assembly and their quality control, and preparing to pack the games into boxes. And I stole some pictures here. I don't know if you recognize this.
That's my garage.
Took this off
that's my garage.
Yeah. So I wanted, and then I think we're going into your living room.
That's my living room. That's right.
So these are, this is how the games leave the factory. And I don't know if we can zoom in. We'll have to see, but I'm quite sure that these big boxes.
Hit Control Plus.
Oh, here we go.
There you go.
The big boxes are going to be the core box. I think we have 4 distilled core boxes or base games in there, and this smells like maybe a Middle East, Africa, Middle East. But so the factory, once the games are in shrink, they're going to pack them into these shipping cases, and there's a certain art to the shipping cases. And determine how many go into them, because once they're in these shipping cases, we load them into a container, and then I think this is what is called floor loading. Okay. And this picture is probably not, just judging on the dimensions, the shapes of those boxes. Those are probably not board games, but for all intents and purposes, floor loading just means that we're taking the shipping cartons and we're picking them up, and they're putting them in the container or putting them in a truck. And you can see it stacked right up to the top. Yep.
Yeah.
And if you're looking at like your just the amount of volume that you're using, the amount of space that you're using, like this is probably pretty close to 90%. You can see it stacked right up to the ceiling. Yeah. There's very little space. So for us, one of the things that we're always trying to weigh against, because we have 2 options. In that first picture of your garage, you had a bunch of distill that was loaded onto pallets. So the other option is when we get loaded onto pallets, and you can see that, like just in terms of the way these pallets are loaded, this we call this pallet loaded, and these little gaps here is like, this is a wood frame or wooden pallet with a space for a forklift to get the prongs and lift the whole pallet to load it. You can see that there's slightly less, there's just a little bit less efficiency in terms of the amount of space that we're using inside the container. So this is one of the things that a decision point that we have to make on every single freight shipment, as it leaves the factory. Do we want to try and put it on pallets, or do we want to put it on the floor? And different warehouses have different preferences, so that's something that we're taking into account. We also hope that the decisions that we're making are going to make sure that our games get delivered from factory to warehouse in good condition. And In general, I think pallet loading might be a little bit more secure, especially with heavier games or heavier boxes, because you're not lifting like a 30-pound box every single time you pick up a case and put it into, like, somebody has to move those by hand. And you know, if you or I were loading them, our first 3 cases we'd be really gentle with, but you know, by the time we'd done 100 or 100 and 150 or whatever that number is, like, by the time we get to that point, our backs and our arms, our legs are probably pretty shot, and then it's just about getting that box and getting it into the container. So it is something that we are trying to juggle. If we are filling up a container to the max, then sometimes we want to try and do it in a way, or sometimes, if we can, everything else being equal, sometimes it makes more sense to pallet load if the container isn't going to be stuffed, because you can unload it and you can load it more quickly and maybe save a little bit there. So it's a bit of a moving target. But each one of these pallets, I think, if we have distilled, we don't have these numbers for Luthier yet because we're not there yet in terms of where we are in the process. But I think for distilled, we get about 100 of them on a pallet.
Okay.
So depending on how many we load, and then at that point we're trying to figure out what kind of containers we're loading them into. And for the most part, we're going to be looking at like a 20-foot or 40-foot container. And for 40-foot container, we got about 20 pallets. And 40-foot container, or sorry, 20-foot, we'll have 10. So depending on how much inventory we're going from, depending on how much inventory we're taking from on each shipment, sometimes it'll be like multiple 40-foot containers, or maybe a 40 and a 20. Just depends on how much we have and where we're sending it.
Well, as an example, so we're discussing with what's right now, right? So the concept, it's nothing's of course done yet or ready to be loaded, but starting to talk about it because we know roughly how many are going to be manufactured. We know where they're going to be shipped, so we can start to talk with what's around that. And what was it they said? We were just talking about this. They said that if
for
we did
our American,
you tell
me. For American shipment right now, it's looking just like a 40-foot container for just distilled. For a 40-foot container, if we floor load, so no pallets, we're just stuffing in boxes as much as we can this way. If we're stuffing as much as we can in no pallets, we're looking at one 40-foot container and one 20-foot container. Mm-hmm. And just to give everybody an example of like the ramifications of this decision, if we decided to pallet load both, we'd probably be beyond 2 40-foot containers. So we'd have 2 full 40-foot containers plus probably plus a couple pallets. So
and how much, I know it varies day to day, but how much on a safe end, as far as a high end, would be a 40-foot container? Like how much cost roughly? Like we can go
in terms of cost. I mean, it depends. I mean, high end, like nightmare scenarios, was 2020, 2021, when, like, in the, I can't remember exactly when the shipping surge was, but you're paying like upwards of over $20,000 mm-hmm. for a 1 40-foot container. I think that that hurt a lot of businesses, a lot of people, because that was probably a 200 to 300% increase. We've just come out of like the Lunar New Year, Chinese New Year, and because there's so much manufacturing in China right now, or because so much of our global manufacturing is in China, just before and just after the Lunar New Year, there is a surge in factories just trying to get that that order into a container and out on a boat. So we see surges at this time of year, but our surges are in like 10,000, maybe 11,000 for a 40-foot container.
But to the
depending
point, Yeah, to that point, if it's, let's just say it's 10,000, and I think, hopefully, knock on wood, they won't cost that much for us when we go to book it. But for people at home watching, you can imagine if we're told we can do a 40 and a 20 floor loaded for 10,000 and I don't know, 6,000, 7,000, something
6 or
like
7, I'd say.
that.
Yeah.
So 16 to 17,000 versus over two 40-foot containers. We really have to make some decisions fiscally about that. And you're right, like we've got to weigh the safety of those goods so that people know at home the first time that we ship distilled, and maybe the second time, because this will be the third printing of distilled. We did do floor loaded as well, because largely because of that, the cost and everything else, and sometimes it just works out that if we're going to have to pay that much extra for it, it kind of makes sense. And also, I know you've mentioned that certain, maybe not necessarily in the States, but certain hubs in certain countries want it floor loaded because they have a different pallet size. They need to they want to be able to load it on something else. So it's kind of funky. Each one is going to be a little different where we ship it and how we send it. So, so real quick. Okay. So, as it's going along, we book those, they get to the port, maybe something like with Silver saying, sometimes there's crises, whether it's in the Panama Canal or somewhere else. As well as Beatrice asking about the tariffs. So those are real questions that are tough to answer. I can tell you right now, I don't have an answer to say, this is exactly how it's going to happen, because I believe, I don't know this for sure, but I believe since we've still got multiple months until it actually even gets imported into the States. And when I say multiple, I don't mean 6 months, but we're looking at definitely a couple months, a couple to a few. I don't know what few means 3 to 5, whatever. We're looking at some time there. So I'm wanting to wait until we get closer to that time to make that decision, to know, is it still 10% tariffs? Because that is a lot. Is it something else as well? We're going to try as hard as we can at Paverson to try and not have it affect the backers, because again, I understand what that can be like, but also hopefully people understand that 10% on thousands and thousands of games can mount up to be quite a lot. So we've got to figure that out too. But the backers would be would be the last people that I would have affected. I really believe that. So it might be us having to change the MSRP, which I don't want to do, but I'd rather do that than something like changing or charging the backers. So it's more of a stay tuned, unfortunately, at this point. I wish I could have more of a solid answer, but for Beatrice, that's where we are right now. So please stay tuned. I'll always be keeping you updated on these feeds as well as newsletter updates as well. Okay, so once it gets there, Kevin, it gets to port. Then, of course, we're dealing with basically fulfillment. Each different center is doing fulfillment a different way, right?
What do you mean by that? Each different centers?
Well, I guess what I mean by that is they're not all, well, obviously they're not all using UPS. They're not all using Canada Post. They're different businesses, and they're different warehouses. They might do different, some people, I think, I don't know. Some people might think, well, I'm ordering this from Paverson Games. Like, I'm going to see Paverson Games on the outside. It's going to be hand packed in a Paverson Games branded bubble wrap. Not really, but you know what I mean? Like, each one is different.
Yeah. I follow you.
Them on that, on how that's being fulfilled, what kind of packaging they're using, what kind of the fulfillment service are where it's coming from, right? The UK, they know it's coming from Spiral Galaxy, but some areas it might be coming from somewhere they wouldn't expect,
Yeah. So, our US backers are we're partnering with Flat River Group. So, we're gonna ship multiple containers to Flat River Group, and they'll unload it all, inventory it all, and then they'll start packing their packing orders, or backers orders into boxes. It's this interesting thing where if we really if we were really insistent on using a specific delivery method, whether it's like in the States USPS or UPS or FedEx, like if we were really insistent on it, we could put our thumb on the scale and say we want to deliver using this method. But In reality, like our fulfillment partners, all of them, are not just shipping our games. Like it's what they do all day, and it's what they do every day. They are gonna they know the couriers, they know those individual delivery methods far better than we would. So for the most part, like we're kind of hands off at that point. Not hands off, but to the extent that we trust our phone partners to take to take our games and to pack them with the right products in them, with the right items in them, pack them in a way that they're gonna to the best of their ability survive that trip, that last mile trip from the warehouse to your houses. But it's they're the experts. They're the experts there. So
Totally. So, and as Rebecca says, sometimes you'd think, and the Alaska and Hawaii is a good example. Like there's, I feel like sadly sometimes they get the short end of the stick. Like, well, they're still part of the states. Yes, I mean, Rebecca, too. It costs a little bit more to live there because it takes a little bit more to get to there. So you might be paying a little extra, but for them not to ship to Alaska seems a little surprising. And obviously we ship to those. There's only a small handful of countries that we are not able to ship to, usually because it's something having to do with either a war zone, honestly, or it's the security of the packages is at stake, and we don't want to just ship something to you that you've spent $100 on only to get it stolen. And so we're very careful. But luckily, there's a lot of places that have kind of freight forwarders and other things that work with that service. So that's nice too. Okay,
there's something interesting that I thought I could jump in just to describe how these fulfillment houses work. Because one of the, as we get closer and closer to Luthier being on boats and delivering, I'm just like everyone else. It's exciting. We want to, we want to get our packages. How do we figure out who, how do we figure out who gets their orders first? The way most of the time, unless there's a reason to specify otherwise, most of the time, what the fulfillment houses will do is they'll take all the orders that we give to them, and which is a massive spreadsheet which has address, order configuration, and whatnot on there. And what they'll do is they'll essentially group orders into batches, so that let's say for Luthier, we have the Luthier Deluxe edition, and the acrylic, or is not the acrylic? I'm thinking about the upgraded worker discs or token, whatever. And let's say there's like 150 people that ordered just the deluxe and those upgraded worker chips. Well, then those 150 orders are going to be all batched together, and it's probably going to be one person that they'll move pretty fast, but they'll do those 150 orders all together. It won't go by backer number. It doesn't matter if you backed, if you're backer number 1, or if you were the very last person to get a pledge in. And it's all about efficiency, because for that person, they can grab a pallet worth of deluxe boxes, and they'll grab a couple cases of the worker chips, and then they can just go, grab the 2 things, put in the box, seal it. Grab the 2 things, put in the box, seal it. And they're working way faster that way than if they're doing like individual orders one at a time, where you have one all in, and then you have one that's just a retail, and then you have another that's just has like the Organ Dice Tower that I saw peeking over your shoulder a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
But it's more about working like as fast and efficiently as possible, without compromising. It puts the people that are hacking in a position where they're going to make fewer mistakes too, because they can kind of just get into a rhythm.
Yeah, that makes sense. Nice. Real quick, Silverfear asked, would Paverson ever look at partner with Allplay to ease the shipping? They subsidize down to $4 per pledge. Whoa. Well, that's the first time I've heard that, Silverfear, so I might have to look into that. But I'm so Allplay is someone that, from what I can tell, fulfills maybe warehouses, also sells. It's kind of a one-stop shop, which is cool, impressive. I'm so far. First off, I was very happy with Quartermaster Logistics. I'm not going to be working with them this time, not because they did anything wrong. They were fantastic, but because I'm trying to consolidate everything into one warehouse. And I work with Flat River Group for distribution to retail stores. And they can also support my online store and fulfillment. So to give you an idea, over the last 2 years, I've been with Flat River Group, but I've had my stuff down in QML. So I've had warehouses in 2 parts of the country. And now 3 different times I've had to ship multiple pallets of games from one to the other because one runs out. And I just realized I want to do this so that it's as efficient and affordable for me as possible. And they also do all my Amazon fulfillment too. So they're kind of my one-stop shop. But it's a good question, Silverfield. It's something I'm always looking at. Obviously, I once I find a partner I really like working with, I'd like to work with them for obvious reasons. But I change manufacturers. I will still work with Watts on things. Distilled cocktails, of course, will be produced by Watts. So it's just a matter of finding the best group for the job, if that makes sense as well. So great question though. Kevin, we're almost out of time for this stuff. I want to be sure to be able to get to show some people some Luthier stuff as well. But would you do me a favor and also talk a little bit about, so we've talked about logistics, but then we also have operations. Like what does operations mean for people? And, so they can kind of try and understand what does that mean exactly?
I'm just going to pull this up. So for operations, I think in this last maybe six months or so, at least on like the year operations or the publishing side of Paverson, it's 6 months ago, it was just you. And one of the things, and there's a lot of efficiency that can happen if it's just you, because it's all, it's all up here. Right. There's a little bit of efficiency there, but then, I wouldn't be here, and Libby and Isaiah wouldn't be here as well if there wasn't a capacity issue.
Yeah.
So I think probably in order for Dave to keep doing Paverson and sleep a little bit at night, that's where we came in.
And what did you say? You said once, Kevin, I think it was when we were all meeting, I think it was you that said something about like everything's been in my head up until now. Right?
I think something to that effect, where like up to this point,
everything's in my head. Yeah. And so like the concept of when I've brought new people in, it's been hard for me to try and help that, like not only give up some of it, but that's okay. But it's more of like understanding, oh yeah, they need that, and they need that, and they need that, and they need that. So that's been really interesting to kind of go through that with you. Anyway, go on.
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of different things that we've been working on, and that's to make the communication a little bit smoother, or to have different communication spaces. I think is pretty big, just so we don't have to have a conversation every single. There's an inefficiency if if we have to have a conversation, like a real-time conversation every time we need anything, but also workspaces, collaborative workspaces, so that whether it's any one of the 4 of us on the operations side, if we need something or if we're creating anything together, that there's a shared workspace. I think at the same time having something that allows you to kind of see progress on any number of items or things that are being that we're working on. So we use it's early, but this is kind of a good visual example of what we're doing. We're using Monday, and this is just kind of a work task management, project management kind of tool that all 4 of us are working in. And in terms of resources, Dave talked about it all used to live in his head, and there's certain things that we need, that Isaiah or that myself or Libby will need. And so we have some Paverson resources that they can just kind of live here, and if any of us need them, we know where to find them. And then a lot of the rest of this is just just tasks or things that we're all working on. We have a couple different spaces in here. We have some that are kind of boards that are game specific. So we're kind of setting up to get on the logistics phase for Distill to get our product from Watts to wherever it needs to go. There's some marketing and communications tasks in here that that are here. If nothing else, it can also function as a bit of like a post-it note reminder, but one that we can all interact with. We have some, and so we have stuff for Distilled. We have Luthier. We have these yet to be announced publicly, but we're working on these in the background.
Yep.
And then some separate workspaces for on the logistics side, and then also community events is Libby, and marketing and communications is Isaiah. So this gives us some space where it gets us out of email threads. It gets us it gets us out of email threads can get so unwieldy. As soon as you get past like 4 emails or whatever, right? Trying to find that one piece of information, and this can streamline it a little bit. There's some neat things that you can do in terms of a quick message. Instead of a quick message, say like, I need this from you. I need this from you in 2 weeks, or what and it's not going to get lost in any kind of messaging system that happens in between. So that's what we've built out. This didn't, let me think, a month ago we started this, maybe give or take. It was like
probably
just before
we started investigating it.
So I think this is a big move that will that we've only started to reap the benefits from, but it's a big move from Paverson, from everything living inside Dave's head to it being functional, shareable, collaborative workspace. So that's some of the things on the operation side, the organizing, maybe, if you will. That I'll do.
That's great. So again, really excited to have you on board. You're going to be not only helping, obviously you've been super helping with logistics, but also it's been really neat to see you step into that role of helping to organize, right? So an operation. So that's pretty cool too. And that's right. Silverfear says the biggest perk for Kevin having a copy. That's right. I just pay people in games, nothing else. But see, he of course got that, everybody, because of all his work with the consultation as the music consultant. You'll see it when it comes out, all the stuff he wrote as far as the history and the lore behind it, probably more than most companies would dedicate in the rule book to that stuff, but I felt it was really important. So you see it peeking up there on the shelf.
I think that copy, so with the prototype previews that went out, that were created ahead of the Kickstarter campaign, if I'm not mistaken, I think that copy was the one that was used by Lola Inspired to Game and Tyler Nelia with Kavre. So it was, and like for those, I don't think I really mentioned where I live, but I live a couple hour drive from them. So when they were finished with it, we just had it shipped to me where I can enjoy it a little bit. It's changed a lot. Like, actually, no, I'll rephrase that. I don't think the rurals have changed at all, but the components have changed a fair bit in terms of how they look compared to that copy. So
Beatrice, you're saying all the right things. Thank you. So Beatrice's background in music, and these are the type of people I hope you've helped discover, or you've discovered Luthier, and it'll help you enjoy it even more with Kevin's expertise in there too, which I think you'll see pretty well. And hopefully soon, Kevin, I haven't told you this, but for those that know, we've commissioned a quartet to record a number of different pieces by musicians that are featured in Luthier. And Kevin helped to find those arrangements as far as finding the which ones they should be recording, and that'll be soon. I think they're getting close. That's going to be really fun to share with their backers, where they're going to get that exclusive download far ahead of anyone else. You'll get to download it, but then everyone else will get to listen to it later on as well. So that'll be fun as well. So, well, Kevin, hey, thank you. I don't want to keep you any longer. I want to thank you again for joining us for Whiskey Wednesday, and it was great to hear a little bit about that behind the scenes with logistics. And if people want to try and ask you a question or reach out to you, is it probably best they find you in the Discord?
Probably Discord, yeah. I'm in there. I've been in there for a while, especially on the distilled like BGA. I'm Silver Fears spamming the chat here, and I think he's quite enjoying himself. But he's someone that I've been playing with for many months now. So I've been in there more so on the BGA side. But whenever there's the question that is specifically related to logistics and what we're doing, then I'm happy to respond there. So Discord is probably the best place.
That's cool. That's good. So yeah, find us on the Discord. Be sure you check that out at some point. Do I still have it open? No, but that's okay. You'll be able to find it. Hopefully, check our latest newsletter. Check other things too. Discord's everywhere. The link, so you should be able to find that. But have fun with us in there. Play some games with Kevin BGA. See if you can beat him. That type of thing as well. So yeah, Silverveer says now I can see who I'm losing to. All right. Well, hey, Kevin, thanks again for joining us, and you have a good rest of your evening. And yeah, thanks again for all your work so far.
Thanks. See you later.
All right.
Thanks for having me.
Kevin. Bye. All right, folks. That was awesome getting to know Kevin a little bit more and his expertise in logistics and operations. Again, if you didn't see last week, Libby and Isaiah were on and talking a little bit about marketing, communications, community, and events. Lots of really exciting stuff there too. So be sure you check back. That's on YouTube and Facebook, on the Facebook page for Paverson. If you haven't seen that, that might be worth your while, especially if you're a distilled fan, because we did go into a little bit more detail about cocktails as well. In TTS, which is still in kind of a prototype stage. Lots of art yet needs to be done. We are starting to do play tests in Tabletop Simulator in our Discord. So if you're someone who uses Tabletop Simulator, likes distilled, wants to help us continue to mold and craft cocktails, please join us over there. That would be awesome to join us. I think Terrence, one of our fantastic playtesting coordinators in the Discord, is running a game maybe this weekend that's already booked, but we'll have many more. And we stream them in there so you can watch it live as well. So be sure to jump on that Discord. I'm talking up that so much that I'm now going to just put that in the chat. So if anyone does want to join it, there's the Discord link. You can follow that along. Hopefully that'll work in the chat. Okay, so now it's time for us to move on to the second part of our show. Probably, I think maybe 15 or so minutes. I think I got to get my daughter to choir practice, so I can't go too long, folks. But I want to show you a little updates about some of the things that have arrived since the last Whiskey Wednesday we had. Some mostly all deluxe upgrades for Luthier. So for your Luthier fans and backers, tune in. Now's the time to tune in. I'm going to try and do this on my phone. So give me a second, because that's how I do it here, as I kind of have my phone and it's like phoneception. Look at that. Oh, look at that. Bro, baby. Yeah. So we're going to do this in a second. So be patient with me for 1 second while I change this. This will be one. Okay. I'm going to mute this. I'm going to unmute this. I'm going to turn this off. Now it should be good. I'm going to turn this up a little bit. I think that'll work. And then I'm going to turn this, and I'm going to kick myself out. I think. All right. Awesome. Hopefully people can still hear me. Hey, everybody. Oh, there it is. Ooh, that's up close. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to wheel around right behind me, and we're going to take a little bit of a look at some of these components. We'll walk through this. Every so often, I'll try and take a peek at the chat in case something comes up. Otherwise, let's take a look here. Let's see if this works. Ooh, okay. All right. Wheel my chair aside. Okay, folks. So we already went over a lot of stuff. So I'm not going to go nuts with this stuff because you have seen a lot. I'm going to focus on the deluxe upgrades that are new to you here. Some of this was in a Kickstarter update, but it might be nice to see it in 3D too. Again, we got a new box front that's looking really nice with that embossing. You can see that that's actually a level that's triple embossed, or wait, double embossed, I guess. So you can see where there's certain parts are three-dimensional. So that's looking really nice. Again, as a reminder, we've got let me pull this off here. We've got the retail and the deluxe. So you can kind of see the difference there of the retail's on the right, no embossing, of course, or UV, but and then the deluxe is because it's got so much stuff in it, stuff that you're going to get to see now for the first time. So actually, I'm just going to leave that off. When we open the box up, we see that, of course, we're greeted by a couple different rule books. In fact, let's actually go through here just because Kevin and I were just talking about it. Actually, I think it's in the other one. Yeah, we'll go with this one. Remember, we have two rule books. And this one is the solo as well as the rehearsal that teaches you how to play the game. But also there's a lot of lore in there. And this is what Kevin and I were just talking about. We can see we've dedicated multiple pages so you can learn a little bit about all the instruments you're crafting in the game, all the patrons, all the luthiers as well. And then we go to the solo. So anyway, you're greeted by that. You're also greeted by this. I showed you this last time. It's just a little deluxe thing as well that's in the deluxe package. So I hope everyone's seeing this. I'm looking. Oh, yeah, I see Matt saying, ooh. So I'm guessing people can see this. So then now this is new stuff for you. So now, if you are a Kickstarter backer and you back the deluxe game, right? You back the symphony or the concerto, and not just the prelude. The prelude would be that. But if you back the deluxe game, and you can see the gorgeous kind of on the side, it's wood. You're going to find first a couple things waiting for you. Now, I want to preface this by saying that I have preloaded deluxe components into this, so you're not going to find this exactly, all right? The first thing you're going to find is you're going to find this holder, this placeholder, right? So this is just an empty box that basically says, hey, if you have the illustrated instruments, they're going to go here. Otherwise, keep this in to keep it snug. You're going to be greeted by two violin or guitar case-looking holders. They are identical. Of course, I think probably when they're shipped, I'm guessing Panda is not going to pack them. It's going to be at the bottom, but it's good to see this. I just wanted to show you some of the things that they could hold. This is actually stuff that you'll get yourself. You're going to get, and the light makes it look there. That's a little better. You're going to get animal cubes, wood cubes, and metal cubes. And again, these are all wood, but they're all, this has got a glisten to it. You can kind of see. You'll get punch out inspiration. The other thing you will get, and remember, this is something that's unique. Most people don't do this, but I really wanted to make sure you all have gorgeous metal coins. So you are going to get metal coins as a deluxe backer. So they're just absolutely beautiful. I would say that they're on par easily with distilleds, and everybody loves distilled. So these look really gorgeous. There's the 5. Flip it over. You've got the penny, the single, the 1. And then you've got the 10, which is the piano. Okay, I don't know why it's popping. Sorry about that, everybody. So you'll get those. They will come in your deluxe. Okay. If you ordered the upgraded resources, remember that was not part of the base deluxe pledge. But if you did, you will also get these. We do finally have the ingots in. I'm happy to say. So you'll get the animal parts, which is the kind of the white cube. You'll get the, oops, that's the bottom of it. You'll get the wood, and then you'll get the metal ingots. These are pure metal. They're very heavy. And then obviously these are just resin. That's kind of, there you can get close and you can see the wood grain too. The other thing you'll get if you decide to get this extra is the inspiration. I'm going to go out on a limb and say this is actually going to be the surprise from behind winner for the game. These things are freaking gorgeous. Sorry, people. Well, I didn't say anything like that. They're just beautiful. The enamel, metal enamel, it cost us a pretty penny to make, but they turned out beautifully. Matt Paquette and Co. helped kind of refine this based on, here, let me get this, based on Vincent's original illustration. And of course, you'll have both if you want, but I just think those are so beautiful. So that's cool. I only have one. The factory only sent me one, but you get the picture for that. And obviously, I don't have all the money either. I see people talking, so I'm just going to let you keep talking, and I'll try and answer it later. Okay, so we have those two identical. We can see it's a fun little guitar case, right? So these are done by Bryce from Black Magic Inserts. Really happy with everything that's been created here. We made two of them for multiple reasons. We wanted to be on multiple parts of the table, but we also made them big enough in hopes that they can hold everything you need on your side of the table. I hate it when someone has a resource on the other side of the table and I have to ask them to move it or I have to hand it to them. So this way, the hope is they're big enough. I know they're big, but they're big enough to hold everything. So notice, technically that's got everything but the metal in it right now, but there's no reason I couldn't split that up and, have a little bit in each. I didn't want to have too many separations because then that would make people AP is like, what do I put in here? So you'll get to kind of choose how you do it, but you should be able to fit pretty much everything in each side of the table, depending on how you decide to break it up. Okay. So again, you'll have this. Now you ask, why would you have this? Well, you would have this if you did not get the instruments, which is totally okay. This is just going to take up the space and keep it safe and snug. And I would recommend you're going to keep it in there. Obviously, I'll do an unboxing and reboxing at the end to show you that. But just keep that in mind. That's all that is right now. And yes, in a second, I'm going to show them to you. Ooh, they're over there behind the pipe organ. But let's keep going here. You've got your board. Then you're going to be greeted by 4 dedicated player trays. Now, these player trays aren't any normal player trays because you know how we are at Paverson Games. We're not going to just do player trays, and we're not going to just do player trays that say Luthier on the top. We're going to make them colored, and we're going to make them, what's it called? Flocked. So these are flocked trays. So every tray is a nice kind of velvety look to it that you can store all your player parts in. So again, each one is colored in that way. Now in here also, I do have the deluxe chips just to show you. And you can kind of hear those clack. These deluxe chips are pretty awesome. They're, you can see they're kind of sculpted on the side. Each color has a unique sculpt. So all of the reds will have one sculpt, all the blues, so that when you stack them, you won't know which one it is which until you turn it over, right? But these are really nice. And you can kind of hear that sound of those as well, which is pretty cool. So those are cool. Let me put this back. Sorry, it's hard to do it with both. Everything else you need is going to be here. So again, we're looking at the deluxe version, so everything is screen printed. In the standard version, the retail version, none of these things. Well, these are wooden and screen printed. And again, in the deluxe, when you get them, these are going to be screen printed wood too. But if you upgraded to the sculpted worker chips that have a lot more weight, they're about 3 times the weight, and they're clicky clacky sound in your hand. Then you'll get those. But they look almost identical. The only difference, of course, is they've got a 3-dimensionality to the top because they're recessed. They're flat on the bottom because they need to be printed, of course, unique. But they've got a 3-dimensionality to the top. So those are those. So again, you'll be graded by all 4 of these colors. Pulling these out here. I'm going to stack these. And again, just to show you, not that the bottom means anything, but there's a spot for each thing to hold. Then I've got the sleeves in here to show you that the sleeves work. I have not sleeved the cards myself because I'm going to be taking this to places and showing off the cards themselves. But what I wanted to show you is these are all the cards and all the sleeves in the game. And there's definitely still room to spare, even with that being the case. And you can see the sleeves are just fine. They fit just fine as well. We've got the 4 player boards that stack, and we see that then as we bring this stuff off, And I'm not going to go look at each one of these because we've seen this already. Whoops. You can see that there's a nice way that these are being stored. I did sleeve these because I wanted to just make sure this fit. So these are the player aids that are sleeved. And again, if you've got the sleeves, you'll have custom sleeves for this size player aids. And then down below, at the very bottom, we have a couple cover-ups for 2-player games, 1 and 2-player games. We have the tiny violin down there. Store your dice down here too. And then you can see that as you pull this away, you're going to store each of these sections. And you'll also see there's a storage for your baton. So if you got the baton, let's see if you got the baton, oh my gosh, it's freaking out about that. If you got the baton, the Paverson baton, then you're also going to have this as well. Remember, this is for kind of just for fun, for teaching the game. You can store the baton right there. There's got a spot for it, so that's nice and snug. If you didn't get the baton, don't worry, you have a cardboard one that you'll have with you too, and you can store it there as well. So we made it so it fits both. So those are those. I'm going to move this aside here. And then I think last but not least, and then of course we've got the dice tower. You've seen the dice tower before, but I just wanted to show you, this is the actual version. We went through a lot. I actually had, I have a ton over there. I had a ton of these that we need to go back and forth. The factory had to get right, and finally they got it right. It's really nice. And so nice dice tower, really great. And so again, if you order the dice tower, it's looking awesome too. The last thing I do want to show you though, so if you remember, we've got this guy. This will come with it. But if you got the instruments, you are going to get a separate box that's going to hold the instruments in this, like so. This is again another box, and I want to say these are all pre-production samples, which means they're a little bit different. There's some things that they know that they're going to be changing as well. But you'll get this nice purple box. And if I repacked it, I'm not going to because I unpacked it all, but you can see this is literally going to fit in that same spot that white thing was, and we can show you that here, right? So that just fits right in the same exact space. So what's inside here? Well, what's inside is your instruments. So again, if you want, this has no gameplay value. I want to be clear, just like some of these fun updates don't either. But what these do, let me get a couple out here. What these do is allow you to have the exact same instrument that you crafted in the game to be able to place it into your player color. So let's say I'm blue, and place it into the orchestra. Or maybe it's a violin, right? And these are double-sided, so we'd see them from either side of the table. We chose to still keep a little bit of white, but to the point where we really believe it's not too detracting at all. It allows it to pop from that wood. So let's see if I can get that. So it's basically, it's printed on wood grain. So it's really, and then it's got like a lacquer finish to protect the artwork as well. But really doesn't pop as bad as it did before where they were really dark. So I'm really happy with how these turned out. They're gorgeous. And again, remember, let's see if I have some. Remember, if, for Kickstarter backers, you're going to get a couple special bonus ones too, right? Like the triangle. So we have those bonus instruments in here as well for you too. We have one of each instrument because it's the first chair, and we have 2 violins, of course. That's a cello. Because of the fact that there's 4 violins in the game, technically, that you can make 2 different chairs. So again, really excited about that as well. These are looking really cool when they're set up on the board as well. And they come in your player color in the sense of you have up to 8 of these first chairs, which is really kind of the maximum people end up making in the game, especially since if you do make a second violin, a second one of those instruments, you wouldn't do this because you wouldn't take first chair. This denotes first chair for you when you claim that. So that's that. I think that's everything. I'm going to wheel around now and see if I can take some questions here. Let's see here. Ooh. Yeah, get my chair. I got to get my daughter to practice here in a second. Okay. Purple Tray, Chef's Kiss, thanks, Silverfear. Yeah, so again, you do have a couple more days to check that as well. So feel free to log into your backer kit. If you saw something there you think, oh, never mind, I want that. That is definitely something you could do too. Let's see if I can. I'm going to remove. I'm going to add, unmute, turn on, leave. Boom. Okay, now I'm back to normal. Yeah, so really excited about those upgrades. Everything's looking really cool, really exciting. I'll try and look through and maybe answer some afterwards if anyone wants to take a look. Yeah, Kevin, sorry. Yeah, Kevin, that's the only one you're getting too. You're not getting another one. That's all you get. Hope you get what you get and you don't get upset. Just kidding. Yeah, so it's going to be fun. Lots of really cool stuff. And I want to thank all of you as always for your support and for your excitement about this stuff. I'm super excited as well. Really looking good as things are coming down the pike. I don't think there's anything left. Yeah, there's nothing left I need to review for sure. I should say, sorry. We are in full production right now. I just met with Clark from Panda today, and the factory's in full production. I've asked him to have them send me some maybe photos and videos of what's going on over at the factory. So hopefully I can have something for you soon. But we are really in full production right now in hopes of trying to get things there. Yeah, good point. Curse you, Kevin. You're right. But the thing you're going to find out is that the thing is keeping me up at night is figuring out if I can actually get this stuff shipped in time for the UK Games Expo. That is going to be the tight one. I don't know if we're going to be able to do it or not. We're going to try so that we can celebrate with all our friends over in the UK. But we'll see. We don't know yet. We're trying to kind of work with the factory. They're really trying to prioritize things too. So we can only cross our fingers and hope at this point. And we'll see where we go. So that's it for Whiskey Wednesday. I'm out, and that's probably good because I need to drive my daughter to choir practice. Good talking with all of you. I'll try and answer some questions, or I wouldn't be surprised if Libby or Kevin might be able to answer some questions for you as well in the chat. So feel free to do that. Come on over to our Discord. Again, thanks everyone for your support. Can't wait till Luthier gets to some of your tables later this year. So that's it. That's all for now. See you later, everybody.